we're going to extend our work a little bit more from yesterday. Yesterday was pretty simple. Remember taking the square roots, we solved that. Now we're going to do about the same thing. We're still going to solve using the square roots, and our answer should be as a whole numbered or as a simplified fraction. The only thing is that I remember from yesterday, we started by separating the sides through the equal sign. So I see my equal side, I'm going to separate my sides. The difference from yesterday and today's work is that yesterday there was only one numbered with the letter. Now there's two. So we're going to have to get rid of those two letters. The first one I get rid of is the one that I'm doing by plus or minus. So I see a -1. So basically the number that has nothing to do with the letter, right? The number that is not next to the letter. It could be before or after, but the number that is not with the letter. So this -1, I have to get rid of it. And I mentioned yesterday, one way we get rid of the minus and pluses, we just move it to the other side, but we gotta switch the sign. So I cancel this -1 on the left side, but on the right side, I call it +1. Don't forget to switch the sign. So I have that 4r² is equal to 9, right? Because 8 plus 1 is 9. Now, to get the r² by itself, let me divide both sides by 4. So I'm going to get r² is equal to 9 divided by 4 is going to give me a decimal. I don't want to deal with decimals. It's either I deal with the whole number or a fraction. No decimals. Remember, the instructions even say answer each as a whole numbered or simplified fraction. So it's just going to be 9 over 4. I even asked myself, can I possibly simplify this? Can I divide 9 and 4 by the same thing to make my number smaller? In this case, I cannot. Okay. Now remember from yesterday that the way I get rid of an exponent, right, the second exponent, is by doing a square root on everything. So r, I'm going to write it up here. It's going to be, remember how I said square root have two answers, a positive and a negative. Now, looking on the top of the fraction, square root of 9. Well, the square root of 9 is 3. Right? A number multiplied by itself equals 9? 3. Because 3 times 3 is 9. Over the square root of 4. Well, that would be 2. Right? Because the 2 times 2, right? 2 multiplied by itself gives me 4. So my answers are positive and negative 3 over 2. Again, I ask myself, can I possibly simplify my fraction? No, I cannot. Okay. So I'm going to leave it at that. So my answers will be negative 3 over 2 and positive 3 over 2. Don't forget to write them from small to large. Okay, let's take a look at question number 6. Let me separate them through the equal sign. My +8, let me move it to the other side as a -8. So that gives me 10a² is equal to 90. All right, 98 minus 8, that's where I got the 90. To get the a² by itself, let me divide both sides by 10. 90 divided by 10 happens to be 9. Now I'm just going to get the square root on each. So a is going to be my positive and negative. The square root of 9. Well, the square root of 9 is 3. So my answer is going to be -3 and +3. Let's take a look at number 7. To begin with, let me separate them through the equal sign. My +2, I'm going to move it from the left to the right, but I'm going to call it -2. Don't forget to switch the sign. So we have that 8n² is equal to 648. Okay, let me divide this by 8. Use a calculator if you need to. 648 divided by 8 happens to be 81. Okay, so it's that. Now to get rid of the squared exponent, I'm going to do a square root. So it gives me that n is equal to, remember I have two answers, a positive and a negative. The square root of 81 is 9. Because 9 multiplied by itself is 81, right? 9 times 9 is 81. So my answer is going to be negative 9 and positive 9. Lastly, let's take a look at number 8. Let me separate him through the equal sign. My minus 7, okay, let me move it to the other side as a plus 7. Don't forget to switch the side. So I get that 9m squared is equal to 100, right? 93 plus 7 is 100. Now, to get the m squared by itself, let me divide this by 9. So m squared, 100 divided by 9, I use my calculator, it gives me a decimal, so I'm not going to use that. Instead, I'm going to keep it as a fraction. I'm going to keep this as 100 over 9. Now, let me get the square root on everything. I get my m is equal to, let me not forget that I get two answers, a positive and a negative. The square root of 100 is 10. The square root of 9 is 3. And I even asked myself, can I possibly simplify my fraction? Can I possibly make my number smaller? The way I'm going to make them smaller is by dividing both by the same thing. No, I can't. Okay. So my answer is going to be negative 10 over 3 and positive 10 over 3. Let me see. This is what we did today.